I don't know.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Mayor Maggie Miggins, and we have heard from many of our residents over the past few months their concerns about stolen cars and crime and things that have been going on within town, and we thought it important. In fact, one of our residents suggested, and I agreed wholeheartedly, that we should have some type of a forum where we can all come together and discuss exactly what is going on in town, try and quell some of the rumors, and then also figure out ways that we could stop, I guess I want to say, some of this, and different things that we can do as well in addition to our police department. So Alex McDonald is our business administrator, and he's going to introduce our police chief and our detectives that came out to speak about what they're seeing, what we can do, what they can do to try and quell the bad things that are happening throughout the country, not just in Melbourne and Short Hills, but throughout the country. So Alex, do you want to?
Sure. Again, Alex McDonald, business administrator for the township. We, unfortunately have had a few of these at the town hall meeting. And, always it's important to get out and speak with the residents and hear what thoughts and concerns are. I remember having a very similar conversation up on St. Clair Terrace, I think about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So just want to introduce Brian Gilfetter, who is the police chief for the Melbourne Police Department. I'll let him introduce his staff that is here tonight to speak to everybody, and hopefully we can have a good dialogue on all of this.
Hope everybody can hear me. Good evening, everybody. I'm Brian Gilfetter. I'm the police chief. To my left here is Detective Barbosa. He's our juvenile detective. And next to him is Lieutenant Del Russo, who works in our patrol division. So we're here tonight to talk about stolen vehicles and property crimes. I just asked that if you have specific questions about a case that you may have, like specifically for you, that you just call our detectives and not air that out here in the public forum. So at least cases that you might have are open investigations. We really don't want to talk about it in this kind of public forum here. So I'm going to talk about stolen vehicles, like I said, and property crimes, and basically, how do we feel that this all started? What was the rise in stolen vehicles? So in January of 2017, the Bail Reform Act was voted in, and a shift from a system that relies principally on setting monetary bails as a condition of release to a risk-based system. Defendants with serious risks of danger or flight can be detained pending trial with no bail. Low-risk defendants who can't afford bail were released, and the system uses a public safety assessment called a PSA, which helps courts and judges determine the risk associated with releasing the defendants at pretrial. Lieutenant Del Russo is going to speak about this a little bit so we can get some insight on how it works.
So bail reform is, it's, as he said, it's newer. It's supposed to stop low-risk defendants that can't afford bail from going sent to county jail and stuff like that. But it hasn't been working that great, really. It's kind of, it's also letting high-risk people, high-risk defendants being released as well. I mean, let's say you have a burglar at your house, you can actually have the burglar, let's say they're arrested and they haven't really been, maybe they have 1 or 2 criminal arrests on their record, nothing that serious, they're probably going to be released. Well, you know, and that's one, they already broke into your house. We can charge them, we're going to arrest them, we're going to charge them, but that's not up to us to do. We can't put that person in county jail. We can arrest them and charge them, but we're told, nope, they're released. Because they built off a PSA score, which is the risk factor. So there's no serious crime, no violent crime, there's nothing, no major criminal history, 20 arrests, there's maybe 1 or 2 arrests, but burglary is pretty serious crime to us. But unfortunately, that's the way that system works. And it's not designed, the idea behind it is very logical. It's just not working all the way. And I think it needs to be tweaked a little bit.
All right, so this started the trend of most criminals being arrested for property crimes and being released with no bail and not going to jail. It took criminals about 2 years to kind of figure out the system of what we now hear all the time is catch and release. In 2018, Milburn had 17 stolen vehicles. 2019, we went skyrocketed right up to 37 vehicles. So you can see how they figured out the system, and now and each year the number has climbed a little bit. This year we had 46 in 2022. So what is the cause or the reason for this? Criminals being released back out into the public after committing crimes, no cash bail. They don't have to go to jail. They're being released because it's quote unquote, which I heard many times in a lot of meetings I've been in, it's only property crimes, which they don't realize that property crimes, of course, affect all our victims here in Milburn Short Hills. There's a few repercussions for their acts. I just want to go over some numbers for arrests. And this is last year between like October and the end of the year, people that we have arrested. I'm not going to give names and stuff, but I'll just give like the number of arrests. Like someone's been arrested 12 times, 1 conviction, 38 arrests, 11 convictions, 47 arrests, 4 convictions, 10 arrests, 2 convictions. It just goes on and on. 42 arrests, 5 convictions, 47 arrests, no convictions. So and this is from the judicial system. So
are those Milburn arrests? I'm sorry.
These are Milburn arrests.
Arrests from your.
Not the arrest. This is total arrests for the person.
Yeah.
Not just, but we arrested that person.
That person.
Yeah,
And that's how many arrests they
at
had.
that time. That person had 47 arrests, 5 convictions. So they've been arrested
So-
47 times by different.
We'll take all the questions at the end if you don't mind. So Milburn sits in a stolen car hotspot, which is a short drive from Newark. Most of our stolen cars that we recover are found in Newark. We're in a hot zone, unfortunately. Essex County is probably number 1 in the state with stolen cars. Unfortunately, a lot of our residents have high-end motor vehicles, and criminals want the high-end motor vehicles. They get between $3,000 and $6,000 for these vehicles when they sell them out to the buyers. Also, other reasons, the courts back in 2020, the court system shut down because of COVID. This caused major backlogs in cases in municipal and county court. And up until right now, even our municipal court has not opened for any full sessions yet. At the end of the month, they're going to have their first full session since COVID had started. There's been recent perceptions that the criminals are the victims, and the Attorney General's office has tried to put some crazy restrictions on police. I don't know if you remember that at one point they told the police that they can't even chase stolen cars. That lasted to April of 22, which of course emboldened the car thieves even more. We had stolen cars circling police cars and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So what are the effects of all this? Cars being stolen through New Jersey at alarming rates. So just from January 30th of 2023 to February 5th of 2023, in the state of New Jersey, there was 208 stolen vehicles. And these stolen vehicles, I'll just read Essex, some of the towns that were stolen during this week: Bloomfield, East Orange, Irvington, Maplewood, Milburn, Montclair, Newark, and then in Union County, our next door neighbors here, we had Clark, Elizabeth, Garwood, Linden, New Providence, Roselle, Springfield, Summit, Union Township, and the list just goes on and on, unfortunately. So these cars are being used to commit also more serious crimes like burglaries, robberies, homicides. Once they take the cars, they go out and commit all these other crimes, which are, of course, very bad and hurt people. One of our vehicles that was stolen right here in Milburn was used in commission with another vehicle and actually hit a Newark police officer when he was trying to stop the car, and he wound up having very serious injuries to him. Also, other effects, our taxpayers here have to spend all this extra money to find alternate ways to combat what's going on. In fact, I don't know if you heard in the news, but Middletown is actually filing suit against the Attorney General's office to change bail reform. So what are the police doing? What are we doing? Increased patrols where we know vehicles are entering town. We have special undercover burglary patrols. We have one of our officers working directly with the prosecutor's office on a special team concentrating on stolen vehicles for the county. We're sort of higher end, the people purchasing the vehicles, shipping them out, etc. We have use of our license plate reader technology. This technology is on multiple of our police cars. We have a couple of stationary locations in town right now. Also, the town is working on a giant fiber project throughout the town, where it's going to incorporate our license plate reader technology at multiple locations with a camera system to help us. We purchased 2 drones, and just our recovering of the stolen vehicles, we have an 85% recovery rate of the stolen vehicles. And the number one thing, of course, is arresting the criminals. And I'm going to ask Mr. McDonald to play the video. You can see that this is going to be a shorter car chase that we were involved in. So it's up on Cambridge. You're going to see once the patrol car turns the corner, there's going to be a Jeep that comes out of Cambridge, and then the officers, will be in pursuit of the vehicle. It hits a curb, and then the suspects all bail out. This is right by Hartshorn School. This is on a Saturday, so there's no school in session.
Thank goodness.
The Jeep is right there at the corner. This actually hit on our reader, so we knew that in the area. There he is. So, I don't know if you can see at the end, but you can see like a white bag get thrown in the air. That guy that's right next to our officer there had crack cocaine in his pocket and threw it. One of the other suspects that we eventually arrest later also had cocaine on him. We arrest all 4 of them. But, you know, we had to have K-9 unit come in from Essex County. We had our drones up in the air. Additional units from Summit came in to help us out. So that's just how that winds up going. But also juveniles have been a big problem with car thefts. We arrest them. Most of them are released right back to their parents. In the month of January, and arresting and charge, we charged, this is the all-time high, 22 juveniles for being in stolen vehicles and committing car burglaries and residential burglaries. I have, of course, right here next to me, Detective Barbosa, and he's going to explain like the procedure for juveniles and how that procedure goes.
Good evening. Real quick, I just wanted to touch on a couple of cases because it'll give you an idea of just what we're encountering out there. This is all January cases, by the way. So we had a motor vehicle that was stolen near the downtown in Millburn. Detective Bureau investigation was able to link 3 juveniles to that stolen vehicle. First juvenile, 10 prior charges, current pending cases. Second juvenile, 8 prior charges, 4 active open cases. Third juvenile, 3 prior charges. That one had no active pending cases. On a separate incident, 5 juveniles arrested in a stolen vehicle. 3 of those 5 prior charges, and 3 of them had active pending cases. 2 of them did not have any priors. All of these 5 were released to a parent or guardian. We had another incident where 4 juveniles were arrested in a motor vehicle. There was a foot pursuit involved. The officer was able to apprehend, all juveniles were apprehended. 1 juvenile, 7 prior charges, 5 active current cases going through the court system. Another juvenile, 8 prior charges, 1 current active case going through the court system. Third juvenile had 1 prior charge, 1 active pending case, and I actually made a note here. This juvenile was released 2 days prior for the same kind of stuff. It was a stolen vehicle. The 4th one had no prior charges. So just to give you an idea that most of the juveniles that we're arresting, this is not their first time. They've been arrested and charged for similar incidents. We also had an adult, I'm just mentioning this because of the amount of prior charges. We had an adult arrested after a brief foot pursuit in connection with a residential burglary. That adult had 20 known prior arrests and 2 current active pending cases released on summons. So just again, 22 juveniles arrested and charged on charges just related to motor vehicle theft, motor vehicle burglary, or residential burglaries. Of those 22, 14 had prior charges, and 12 of those 14 had active pending cases, which means there are cases going through the court system as we speak. So this gives you an idea of just what we're working with. There was juvenile justice reform recently, and the way it works now is we don't decide whether that juvenile goes to juvenile detention after we arrest them or not. So I'll just give you a quick idea what it looks like. If that officer catches that individual, let's say they're a juvenile, they will bring them back to headquarters. Most crimes that we're talking about, whether it's motor vehicle burglaries, residential burglaries, or motor vehicle theft, are what we call third-degree offenses. Those juveniles are brought in and they are processed like similar to adults, which means we're going to take their photo, we're going to take their prints. The only thing is it's a lot harder to get them sent to juvenile detention. Okay, the way the law is written now, unless it's a violent offense or that juvenile has missed a court date, which in that case they would probably have a warrant to begin with, we're not going to be able to detain that individual, right? It's just not going to happen. So we don't make the decision. We actually have to call the juvenile detention center. We call it intake. We basically send the information for the juvenile along with why we're arresting them, and they basically determine whether that juvenile will be taken in or not. Most of the time, they are released to their parent or guardian. Even when we do send them to juvenile detention, For example, on one of these cases, we sent 2 juveniles down to juvenile detention because they had a lot of prior charges. One was released right away on a GPS monitoring. Basically, they put a monitoring around their ankle, and they were released right away. And the other one was detained. My own personal experience, even when they are detained, they're not there for long. They're usually there maybe 24 to 48 hours. I've had them, even on violent offenses, get out after 24 to 48 hours. So that's basically what it looks like these days.
The juvenile justice reform is almost like bail reform, just for juveniles, and it's kind of takes the ability for us to say this person needs to be housed in county jail because they're going to commit another crime, takes that decision away from us and puts it on people that would not be able to make that decision.
So how can you assist us to protect your most valuable items? And some of these you might have seen already because we put them out before. But if you have a Ring doorbell or a Ring video surveillance system at your front door, considering put one at your back door. If you're planning on travel or be away from your home for an extended period of time, don't share this information on social media or other public forums because it gets around. Criminals are looking through social media to see who's home, who's saying that they're in Barbados, who's saying they're down the shore or wherever they are. Stop your mail and package deliveries while you're away. Arrange with the post office to hold your mail or have a friend or somebody pick it up. Leave the lights on when you go out. If you're going to be away for a lengthy period of time, use automatic timers, turn them on in the evening and off during the day. Help keep watch over your neighbor's home and ask them to do the same for you. Never leave your keys on their doormats or flower pots, mailboxes, the secret hiding places. Burglars look for those. Keep a detailed inventory of your valuable possessions, including a description of the date when you purchased them, original value, serial numbers. Keep a copy in the safe away from the home. If you maintain a safe with important documents or valuables, be sure that the safe is bolted to the floor or hidden in an unexpected place. Burglars know to go right to the master bedroom. That's most of their MOs. They go right to the master bedroom. They don't, you see burglars on TV walking out with big TV and stuff. They don't do any of that. That's just TV. If you're experienced break-in or lost your keys, make sure you change your locks immediately. Like I said, keep your house well lit. If you can, get an alarm, floodlight motion sensors, lock your lower windows, and of course, lock your doors. I also have some car tips, of course. Make sure nothing's valuable or visible in your car. Always bring your handbags, briefcases, wallets, other valuables in your home, lock them away. If you can't, lock them in your trunk so no one can see them. And it's also important to keep personal checkbooks and driver's license and possessions locked away. But of course, the most important thing with car thefts, and probably everybody here has heard me a million times with the phone calls and the emails and lock your cars. That's all they're looking for. They just walk around. I'm sure some of you have experience in here. Seeing on Ring doorbell, they just pull the car door handles. They don't even look in the car for your keys half the time. All they're doing is push the start button. And if your key fob is sitting in the console or under a seat, the car just starts up and they drive away. That's all they're looking for, the easy car to take. I know sometimes they have gotten in one car, but the key fob's not in there, but the car's unlocked, and they're pushing your garage door opener and then going inside and getting the car that's inside the garage, which may have a key fob in it or whatever, and driving that car. There has been rare occasions, of course, I'm sure you've also heard, where they're just like checking the doors right by the garage and seeing if it's just unlocked. And if the door is unlocked, they're going inside, taking the keys off the counter, and making their way on. So at this point, we'll take some questions if people have questions on what's been going on.
Can I just follow up?
Sure.
Before we get to this, can I just follow up on a few of the tips? When it comes to mail, I've heard that the stopping of mail can also be an indicator. Is there truth to that, or is it something where, again, when you say neighbors checking on neighbors, you have an arrangement with your neighbor to say that they're getting your mail for you?
That's probably better than stopping it, but
Mailman coming or mail person
Yeah,
coming.
What we don't want is this mail, like,
Yeah.
just sometimes we would go on alarm calls and you see
Yeah.
just like a giant stack of mail that just keeps growing on somebody's front
Stopping the
porch.
mail is probably better than the mail just piling up.
Of course.
But if you can have somebody just come check the house every day, that's the best thing. you can
Back in the
possibly
day, people's newspapers would sit at the end of their driveway and you just see them
Yeah,
start to
it's-
stack up, but most people don't get newspapers anymore.
Also with the stolen cars, some of these car thieves are so inclined and so tech savvy that they know they can pull down, as they're just driving down the road, they can check for mirrors in is locked, mirrors out might be unlocked. They know which cars to check. They can pull behind just in the street, they can look up and they can time the light, the red flashing lights inside the cars. They know certain models flash 15 seconds, 30 seconds versus locked, unlocked. So they just locking your car is really, really important because of that. So they can just drive down your street and pick cars that are unlocked, go up, the keys in it, they're taking it. So,
And I know this is an old thing, and this is my last question, sorry. But this is an older thing. But it's something that I've even considered is the use of a club, quite honestly, like something that deters them from actually, even if you did forget your key fob, or did forget something, that they wouldn't be able to steal a car. Is that something that is still utilized or even available? I don't even know.
I haven't seen them, I haven't seen them much, but I'm
You
sure
happen to
they'll-
have one from the 90s?
It would probably deter them. It probably, it probably
I
would
had one in
deter
my
them.
car back in the 90s,
It
but
can't.
yes.
It can't hurt, it probably deter them, but they might take your key and come back another day, you might not know what's missing then. So
Right.
they're pretty good with different things like that. They'll even see a car that they want to take and they'll keep coming back, check it, till the one day you leave it unlocked. Because they know they can sell it.
If you just want to come up to the
Yeah.
podium, I guess, to go on mic so YouTube could hear. what's
Yeah.
going on.
Hi, I'm Tony Walk. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Been a resident here for 25 years and I live on Dorison Drive. I've had 2 incidents at my house. We do lock our cars, so, on the ring, I've seen them come. I think you've been at my house. And, so I'm not here to, first of all, I have tremendous respect for everything you guys do. Like I said, I've been here 25 years. All my interactions with the police department have only been positive, and so I'm not here to condemn, bash. It's really just to find solutions. And what I just heard is kind of an issue that I don't think, unfortunately, we're going to solve in this room tonight, right? And so I try to think about like what are we capable of solving? And so the first area I'd love to explore is kind of data. And I don't expect you to have this, but I'd love to know, I looked at our budget and I see we spend a little under $8 million on the police department in a roughly $60 or $65 million budget. I think we spend about $375 per resident. And I just have no idea where those numbers stack in terms of communities similar to ours. So it'd be really helpful for me and probably others just to understand kind of, the level of our expenditures and the resources that we devote to policing in this community versus other communities of similar socioeconomic areas, both in New Jersey and outside of New Jersey's. Because what I did see when I did some research is across the whole United States, on a per capita basis, they're spending a lot more than we spend. And I only offer that up because I try to think about what can we do to kind of solve this. And we're not going to solve bail reform tonight. But to me, we've been talking about this issue, when Mayor Prupus, for a bunch of years. And so I kind of asked and I kept always hearing, well, the numbers really aren't up so much. The numbers really aren't up so much. But then you ask yourself, well, what's an acceptable level of crime? And, in a community like this, do we even want to accept, 15 thefts every 2 months or 3 burglaries a year? I don't know the answer, but I think it's a question worth exploring because I know personally, I don't live in a fantasy world. It's not going to be zero, but I think it's worth discussing as a community because we do have resources. What we do as a budget is we decide what our priorities are, and then we allocate those things. And we can always increase resources for things where we think you need more allocation. Looking at the budget from last year and priorities, I didn't see a priority with policing or anything along those lines. I missed that meeting, and so that's my bad for not speaking up at that time. But So first area, I'd love to get a whole bunch of data on what are we spending in a community on this and how does that stack up? So hopefully we can get that, maybe Maggie, you can collect that information and share it?
Sure.
All right, does that make sense? The second is kind of solutions. I appreciate that we have more patrol cars. I think we added 2 police officers and 4. I will say, as someone who lives here and I walk my dog every night and I drive around at night, I'm out. I live on Dorison, which is right off of South Orange Ave. I don't see any police officers. I don't see any, at least marked cars. I don't know about unmarked because I wouldn't know. I don't see them. And so I always was taught perception is reality. And when I talk to a lot of people, and I apologize they're not in this room, they would say the same thing. And so when I think about potential solutions, I think we have to get into a deterrence. We can't solve catch and release, but if there's just a massive increase in presence of marked cars, well, they're not going to go on to Dorison, or they're not going to go on to the Poet section because they're going to see all these cop cars. And so we can do that on an outsourced basis, so you don't have fixed costs. We can try it for a month, try it for 2 months. This isn't millions of dollars, but the only thing I can think of that can solve this in the short term, because right now, what has to be going through their head is, we have bail reform, we're gonna get catch and release, and Milburn it's fairly easy because of the egress and the ingress. And so one solution of potentially lots of solutions is to have a material, and no offense to 4 over 58, it's just not big enough because at least I don't see it. I don't know about the rest of the people in the room, but I only can talk about the people I associate with. And so I would love to, we have an affluent community. There's different ways to find funding. I really would love to see a proposal or some solution about a massive uptick for a couple of months so that we send a loud and clear message that we're watching. And, it's not going from 6 cars at night to 8 cars at night. There's a pretty big geography here. And so I'm going to pause there, and I'd just love to hear your response.
So we'll look at the money factor that you're talking about comparing our town to other towns, but most towns in this area are, whether they have way more officers than us, or are pretty much in the same boat that we are in, whether they have 70 officers or they have 58 officers like we do. Our 58 officers, you have to remember, are on 2 different shifts. That includes detectives, traffic people, patrol officers. On a temporary basis, I don't really know how you would do that on a temporary basis, because you can't just get multiple cars, extra cars, I would say, on a temporary basis. We would have to buy them and have more officers go to the police academy, et cetera, et cetera. But I get what you're saying about perception and people being on the road. It, of course, is always a deterrent, but you're not always going to see a police officer driving by your house at the exact time that you're walking your dog, or happen to look out the window, or those types of things. So, I mean, they're good ideas, but it's hard to all of a sudden go from 58 officers to say we need 200 officers.
But
on a temporary
just to take
basis.
the other side, there's all sorts of private security, right? You could just have marked cars that have nobody in them. There's 30 private security agencies. I looked 2 years ago of doing something just in our community when we had the incident on Sinclair. We got a bunch of residents. I called 20. That resource exists. If you just, I'm not saying you guys aren't
Police
creative.
departments don't hire private security people.
Who's to say we couldn't?
Well, I'm just saying police in general through the state of New Jersey
But
don't hire private security.
I guess what I would just ask is, we're in a unique time frame, right? You've been doing this a long time. This is a unique time frame. So I just think it requires us all collectively to just think out of the box of, same old is not, at least from my perspective, and I think the community's perspective, does not appear to be working. And so
We're not doing same old anymore.
Yeah,
The
well,
technology and license plate readers and drones and all that stuff is not
Yeah.
the same. Like if you go back 10 years, none of that stuff existed
but I
anymore.
guess if you asked all the people who had their cars stolen and then returned from that percentage, yeah, they love getting it returned, but they feel invaded. And so what we have to stop is the first step. The second step is interesting, candidly to me, and I'd want my car back, but your house is broken into, that violation lives with you forever.
No, I
And so,
understand the
we have to
victimization of it,
focus
of
on
course.
the deterrence, and the only thing I know, I'm a lawyer, and I just is a physical presence that's just much larger, so that this group of people, whoever they are, knows that Milburn has done something significant. And I hear you on resources, and I can't just hire, but I'd ask you to think a little differently, because I think there are pretty simple solutions to that.
Would you guys be
All right.
opposed if,
I don't know
would you
if it's
guys be,
simple, but I would hear you on how to.
would you guys be
You think you
opposed
can
as a
go about it?
Hold on one
community
second,
behind?
hold on one second, because this is not gonna work if we're all just yelling out and that. So I'd like everybody to just keep the meeting orderly. Obviously, we're all here to hear from everyone and hear solutions, and so we want you to know that whatever is said will be, certainly looked at and taken under consideration and thought through. Just to answer your question, yes, the police department is around, it's a little bit more than $8 million, but and that is salary and wage, and then there's obviously other expenses involved in that in the budget. The township committee last year passed a capital ordinance in the tune of $1.5 million for technology for this purpose. And so you will see the truck that's out around town putting fiber on the poles. That is for a solution for what we're all talking about today. Obviously, one of the things we want to be careful about is how much we talk about that and how much detail we divulge on that, because that would sort of defeat the purpose. But there has been a large capital expense into that. Again, I'm just going to ask that everybody be respectful of your neighbors and come up to the mic, speak. Let's not try to get into too much of a debate, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to speak. And tell their story or have their thoughts or their solutions be known. We're not putting any time limits on anybody, but obviously be respectful that there's a decent amount of people here tonight, and that we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to speak.
Hi, I just have a few questions. Do the police use tasers?
No.
Okay. Is that something that's on the table? Like when the guys ran out of the car? I don't know, really. I would hear odd things about tasers, good and bad. So.
Well, I don't think the Attorney General guidelines in that instance right there would even allow the officer to deploy tasers.
Okay.
So we have.
Tasers in the state of New Jersey are only for if you are going to use your gun also.
Okay.
And the deadly.
I have no
deadly
idea. That's why I'm
force
just asking the
situation,
question. It's one of these things you see on TV and you're like, why don't they just tase them?
That's perfectly fine. Other states do allow you to use tasers for other reasons, but New Jersey doesn't.
Okay, and I agree with everything this man said. I forgot your name, sorry. The police, I think you guys do an amazing job. I think you're in a tough situation. I, for one, don't think you should be pursuing cars. I think it's a danger to the community. So I do agree with all that. Another quick question. How many of the arrestees, like the juveniles or the adults, are arrested with guns? Do you have any idea, percentage or anything along those
Well,
lines?
the numbers that I have for juveniles is I just did January just because, it was a pretty significant number. But none of the juveniles that we either arrested, well, has to be arrested because charged we wouldn't know, but the ones we arrested did not have any firearms in their possession.
And what about adults too? Or is it generally that people stealing cars aren't carrying guns?
I believe we had 4 or 5 gun arrests last year, but I don't know what they were associated with. So I would have to look that up.
So
The
the,
majority of them are not carrying guns, but there are some. There are
Right,
definitely
of
some.
course.
We've had several over the
okay,
last couple
and
of
then
years.
I feel like you talked a lot about car break-ins, which obviously everybody knows about. But I have heard of 2 terrifying incidents in the past month, I guess, one on Marywood and one somewhere else, about house break-ins in the middle of the night with people home sleeping, and they didn't know that people were breaking in and stealing their cars and robbing their houses, and even with dogs and cameras, this is happening. And this terrifies me because, one, we don't really know about it. I feel like the more information the public has, the better. Though this didn't happen in my neighborhood, and I always joke, I live on Whitney Road, the houses are close together, so I feel like that's a little deterrent. But I would like more information about what crime is happening, so I know, there was a home invasion on, whatever street, Kane Road or whatever, I think it's just good to know for people to be on the lookout. So I would like more information about what is happening in real time. I signed up for the Summit alerts and I get them. I got one recently about a car, pursued, or something about a car being chased or something. So, and I do agree about the police presence. I think, maybe we can find a way to do it without necessarily hiring more cops, or I assume you have patrol cars. I feel like that would be a good solution. I think more presence would be great. I see the patrol cars at the mall. I see you guys around, but I think, a temporary, like, real uptick in police presence would be great. And just one last thing. I also think, I know this is a little bit of maybe not PC, but quality of life crimes should really be paid attention to. There's so much graffiti in town. There's graffiti by the library, there's graffiti by CVS, and I feel like that's like the first sign that, okay, the police aren't out or caring about the community. So I think that's something else that, I don't know. I was gonna fill out the SDL because I have pictures.
Yes, please.
So I will send you that information.
That's the way those things will get taken care of.
Yeah,
taken care of.
I appreciate it.
It's not the police's job to do that or so.
No, I know it's not their job, but I'm just saying, I feel like as a community, when you start to see these little crimes and they're.
I'm not disagreeing with the
Yeah.
statement, I'm just saying that also for us to make sure that that's taken
Yes.
care of quickly, put it on the SDL portal so that we can address it.
I am going to, but anyway, thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name's Steve Erbeck. I was a little late, so I apologize if I didn't ask a question or make a statement that's already been talked about. But I live at Ground Zero, Browning Road. Had a car stolen in 2019. It's my wife's fault, maybe. Had a break in the car, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago. And then the joke of it all is 2:30 in the morning this morning. I got on my ring, someone trying to open my door. So I'm very well versed in what's going on, and are the cars a big deal? Yes, maybe not. The houses, like we're saying, that's terrifying. And I understand the resources are limited, but I want to ask or see if we have like a task force maybe. Like this meeting right here, it's like we're all thrown into it and you're gonna hear some yelling and this and that, and we're all gonna go home and feel like, okay, we'll see what happens over the next few months. But is there like a task force you guys have in place? Maybe it's with a group of us. I know I'm on like a chat group and people in town are starting to talk about taking things into their own hands, which makes your job that much worse. So I think the general feeling is like, there's nothing we can do. We're doing our best. We're limited. Good luck.
Well, that's not true. I mean,
No, but
you said you walked in a little bit late,
yeah.
but so we do have extra patrols in areas where we know that the stolen cars are coming in
Right.
hot and fast. We have extra burglary patrols out there in unmarked cars. And we also have somebody, like I said, we have someone on loan with the prosecutor's office who is working with their task force to try to stop this.
Right.
Because if they have nobody to sell to, then that's all going to kind of crumble around them. But
Gotcha. But is it working? Are you seeing any improvements? Like I said, 2:30 this morning, somebody was jiggling my door.
you can just tell by the number of arrests that we've been making that
There are more arrests now.
It's stopping it as much as we can.
No, I got you. But I mean,
You don't want arrests.
I don't think it's a, and like you said, like the arresting them is like, it doesn't do anything anyway, right? Like they're back on the streets in 24 hours. I know, I don't know. But I'm saying like maybe open up a chat line and have us all like talking, and I don't have a solution. I don't think you guys have a solution either. I'm not blaming you. But I'm saying like people are actually talking about, like I'm on a chat chain where people are talking about neighborhood watches with guns. Like that's like
But the arrests are what deters the people from coming in town, because in the end, they should be getting punished and put in jail.
Yeah, but it's not
That-
happening though, right?
But then what's the other solution? It's just what?
I don't move. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like, if
There's
that's
no
the-
other solution. You know what I'm saying? Like the end result is
Right.
if someone commits some type of crime, they're getting arrested.
Right. Are they being arrested even?
Are you trying? Yes.
Oh, they are,
I
okay.
just went over
Yeah,
that.
yeah, okay.
But
Well,
the other thing is to try to prevent the crime before it happens.
Right, before we say this, like, you guys have been in my house, like, often, you're there, you know, the crew.
Like, but
And they laugh when they're at my house, they say this, they're like, yeah, we're gonna.
I don't know the specifics of the cases at your house.
No, they say we're
and
gonna
I
dust
don't
for
want to get into that in this
fingerprints.
public forum if you want to talk afterwards.
No, but they say they're gonna dust for fingerprints and laugh while they're doing it, they're like, yeah, this is really gonna, you know, we're gonna put on APB and yada, yada, yada. I mean, but listen, if I'm wrong and you guys are doing everything's possible and everyone here is happy with what's going on, then my bad and you
First
know.
and foremost, I don't think that everybody would be here if they're happy with what's going on. So I think that it, you know, your comments, actually, you told a little bit of the story, which I think is really important, is that your car was stolen in 2019, and they tried again last night, and they didn't steal the car.
Yeah.
That's step one. Let's be
Sure.
honest, everybody, that is step one,
Yeah.
right? So in order to not invite people into our town, we don't let them have an opportunity, right?
Sure.
And I will get the argument, and I understand the argument of, well, now they're sort of escalating the game too. So,
Exactly.
totally.
That's
get
what
it.
my thing is just leave the car door open, because I don't want it in my house, but.
So one of the best things that we were talking about is that the best thing we can do other than arrest is deter.
Right.
And one of the best things to deter is to lock your cars. I was one of the officers on the task force assigned to the county. And I've interviewed the guys that steal the cars, like head guys.
Right.
And they said 9 out of 10 cars are unlocked here.
Right.
That's why they come here. They said 9 out of 10 cars are unlocked. And they said not every car has a key, but they don't even have to look for it. They just get in the car, put their foot on the brake, hit the button. If it starts, they drive away. And that is one of the major problems. And that's why you're pestered with it.
Yeah. No,
Because-
So, and then just speaking to a little bit of like what I think is sort of the undertone, right, is, and I think Mr. Wolf spoke about earlier, is that, you know, how do you prevent them from even coming into the town to a certain degree?
Yeah.
You show this presence, you show this. One of the things that is happening is the ability of our police department to very quickly be on them before they have the opportunity to commit a crime, or they have the opportunity, because generally speaking, they're coming in as stolen cars. They, like we said about when they steal your cars, they're going to take those cars and do other crimes. They're taking stolen cars, coming into this town and committing crimes as well. So being able to be on them quickly and before they can go around to multiple neighborhoods, checking car doors or whatever it may be, that is sort of the step that's being taken right? So that's something that you can do with the resources that we have, and maximize the efficiency of the resources that we have. And so I think that's the answer to that question that you're sort
Gotcha.
of posing.
Okay, my last thing, it didn't sound like the idea of having like a more regular meeting to discuss, but I can almost guarantee you, if you had enough of us in a room and you had an idea, but you don't have the budget for it, I can almost guarantee we could get the budget for it. Like we could, people come out of pocket. I know a lot of people that would come out of pocket for some real money. So, I'll throw that on the table somehow. I don't know how to make it happen, but if money is the issue, in this town especially, it should not be the issue is my point. So, thank you.
Alex,
Thank
can
you
I
very
just
much.
add something to what you said? That when we say that 22 juveniles were arrested or charged, a lot of these incidents where we ended up arresting these juveniles, they didn't get to commit a crime. And that's because of some of the technology that we now have in town. So they came into town in a stolen vehicle. As soon as they hit one of our license plate readers, our officers were alerted, and immediately they flood that area, which helps before the crime's even committed. So these individuals came to town to steal a car or to burglarize a car or to potentially enter a residence. They never had an opportunity.
And that's why they're 4 or 5 deep.
And I
4 or
think
5 people in a
that's-
car.
that's what's
Come here and
changing.
Take 2, 3 cars.
So I think that's important to note that there are changes being made that we're seeing that are having results.
Hi, Adam Bell, resident for about 20 plus years. Thank you for what you guys do. We know you're in a tough spot. So again, this shouldn't come off as, we're just here to help. I think some of the things that I've heard of is now that we're putting up whatever technology we have, they're taking Ubers coming into town, getting dropped off. So in theory, does that evade these cameras, right? Because if an Uber driver comes in, you're not stopping an Uber driver at 2 a.m. Someone may be coming home from the city and they're getting dropped off and the technology is useless. I don't know, but that's something that we're starting to hear. And I do think, and I think whoever just said it, and Tony Wilk said it is, to me, this is a no-brainer from a business standpoint, okay? Maggie can certainly put 3, 4, 10 of us in a room, figure out an outsourcing plan that we get 20 more cars, as long as they kind of report into you and you guys have it, and get a shock and awe approach. Just, Friday, Saturday night, every other night, they don't know when they're coming and they see 20 cop cars just with flashing lights. Just having flashing lights and having 20 cop cars from Summit and on a barter basis, there has got to be something we could think out of the box for a month or two to at least test it. There has got to be. It can't be. This is all great, but again, to me, I think we can outsource something quick. You've got the top town in New Jersey here, the top town with the smartest people. We got to be able to figure this out. It can't be the same old, same old. When I say same old, what you're doing is great, but this is going to take a long time. I get the camera, I get whatever it is, but I'm telling you, shock and awe. You put, 5 cop cars at almost every entrance. It will pay up. It may cost us $1 million or $2 million between all the residents over a couple of month period. But to me, there's a no-brainer. This is a top town in New Jersey. We should be able to figure this out. And you guys know how to do it. We just have to give you the support. If that means money, let's not waste time. Get people, make a quick assessment, and let's go. So that was one. The other thing that I just was with someone from Tewksbury, that's EMT. What they're saying is the new 78 law where state troopers can chase now on 78 is forcing them to come closer and closer to Newark, which is going to put us possibly at more risk. I'm not sure if that's true or not. But
I'm sorry, can you just?
so I guess state police can now chase on Route 78.
Probably because the AG guidelines changed again.
Correct. So what's
they're allowed
happening
to chase
is
again.
if
We're
they're
allowed to
going
chase
from
again.
Tewksbury, which is 30 minutes that way, to Newark, they have a better chance of getting caught. If they come from Milburn, they take the back roads, they have less of a chance. So we may be starting to see more and more just because of that. So it's just, but anyway, thank you all. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Frank Saccomandi. First, want to thank you guys because I know, the police department works really hard trying to keep us safe. And I can only imagine you guys must be demoralized going into work every day, knowing that you're going to catch these criminals. And because of the state level policies, they're going to get released and they're going to reoffend. So really, I do empathize or sympathize with you on that. And maybe the town could look into suing the state to try and get some of these bail reform policies overturned, or to try and get them to tighten up on some of the laws here, because it seems like you guys are between a rock and a hard place. One thing that I think we could potentially try to do as a town is try and make our town less attractive to the criminals compared to other towns. So if we had a lot more police, or if we had police permanently stationed at the major entrances and exits of the town, maybe that would act as somewhat of a deterrent. So they'd say, all right, yeah, let's just go to Summit and we'll go steal the cars there. And we'll go to Madison. So one of my questions I have is, if you had an unlimited budget, what expenditures would you request that you think could help make a difference? Would it be more cops? Would it be more equipment? What would you guys ask for if cost were no object? Another question I had is, what percentage of the cars that were stolen actually had the keys left in the car? So it seems like a decent number of them.
90%.
90%, okay.
Probably
The other
at least.
10%, are the thieves using black market electronic devices to
They're-
amplify the key signal, or?
I don't want to get into specific cases, but they're like weird type cases where it's a rental car and they only got one key fob on the rental car, and then all of a sudden the rental car is gone.
Or I would just add Kias, for example. They've actually been doing it the old-fashioned way on Kias. So that's maybe part of that 10%. But again, 90% is the keys.
I've heard of some cases where they use some high-tech stuff, but that's very, very, very rare. Yeah, it's,
Okay.
I would say in the last couple of years, we probably had one, maybe, something like that. Yeah.
What percentage of the thieves that you apprehend have any sort of weapon on them? So maybe not a gun, maybe they have a knife or any other weapon that would be considered illegal in New Jersey.
I didn't run those numbers, but we can get them for you.
Okay, that'd be interesting to know. It also seems like there's an increasing number of what I'm going to call home invasions, criminals entering someone's home and looking for keys. I haven't been seeing a lot of that in the police blotter. I haven't been seeing any statistics on that. Have you guys been asked by either Alex or the mayor, or anyone within the town to sort of keep those out of the blotter? Or what is the reasoning that that's not made more public? Because that seems like a big threat to people's safety. If criminals are going into the home, even especially while people are home or while they're sleeping, that's something I think people in the community need to know about, so they can take proper precautions.
I don't look at the blotter every single week, but I'm sure some of those are in the blotter. We just had one recently that wouldn't have been in the blotter yet because we put out the blotter every 2 weeks, but yeah, we're not hiding anything if that's what you're insinuating.
No, I'm not saying you're necessarily hiding. Is anyone asking you to omit certain things from the blotter? Who makes the decision as to what gets into the blotter?
We do, because back in the day when the blotter used to be run by the press would come in and just we would put out a board that was, highlighted with stuff, and they would root through the reports and figure out what reports that they wanted to go in the police blotter. As the press kind of disappeared through the years, that kind of fell on the police department. So we have a press officer who basically does what the press guy used to do back in the day. So not every single call that we have goes in the police blotter. It's just highlights of what's been going on in town.
Could we perhaps put those incidents in a database that residents could look at?
I don't.
So you guys have statistics, right? And you take police reports, et cetera. Is there some way we could have a database of all of the crime statistics?
We don't have a data analyst in our police department. We're a small level police, small town police department. We're not like NYPD where they have analysts. We don't have that.
You want just a public access to the,
Yeah, I
that
think it'd be
board
good
that we
for there to be
post?
some transparency so that folks could go in and say, oh, looks like
Where's
there
the
were
blotter
five car thefts this week, or, there were 2 home break-ins.
We do the KPIs. I don't know if you've seen those.
I have seen those.
Okay.
Were the home burglaries?
So the burglaries are on the KPIs.
Yeah.
Burglaries are on KPIs. Stolen vehicles are on KPIs.
unfortunately,
Well,
there's
those
not
burglaries are on
there's no
KPIs.
actual crime home invasion in New Jersey. It's considered, we name it that, but it's actually burglary, just occupied burglary. So you might not even notice it if it's on something most of the time. It's gonna say burglary. It's just a second degree if they have a weapon or use force. Unfortunately, it's just the way the law is. Really, there's a lot of other states that have like burglary to a car is different crime than burglary to a house, but New Jersey has it kind of just burglary to a structure. That's the way that's maybe something that could be changed eventually, but it would be take a lot
It's
more
just
than
a
us.
3rd degree burglary.
Yeah,
So
unfortunately.
you're probably just gonna see burglary, even
It
if.
won't say
they're-
home invasion, unfortunately, so maybe that's why might not be safe.
And I'm just gonna say something, because you brought it up several times before. I'm gonna start to take offense to you insinuating that I'm suppressing information in the police department. So
I'm merely
the fact
asking
is-
if that's
Yeah, I
happening.
know, but that multiple times, we said multiple times that that's not the case, that the blotter is a snapshot of things. And so I have no interest, nor do I have any reason to suppress the information. So I'm just gonna put that out there.
I appreciate you stating that publicly. So I would like an answer, if cost for no object, what would you ask for? What resources would you ask for? What technology would you ask for to try and improve the situation?
That's not something I thought of before because in reality, it's not a cost or no object type of feel.
Well, it sounds like people in town are upset and they would potentially be willing to maybe have an increase in taxes or find a way to pay for additional resources if that will help solve the problem.
Resources are always a necessity in any police department in the state or in the country. The more police you have, the better results, of course, you're gonna get.
So what I'm suggesting is maybe you make a public ask and then let the public and the residents go to their elected officials and try and, see if they can convince them to.
Obviously,
Fund
more
some of
manpower
that.
stuff is the one thing you would have to, but to get more manpower would be very time, like the chief said before, hiring somebody, background, it takes probably over a year, well over a year, because between the academy, training, and just hiring, it takes well over a year just to get officers hired. So to get more manpower short would be some type of overtime and details and things like that, which we have been doing, so. But that would be the one thing, it would just be more of it, if pretty much, for a short answer, is the one individual over there wanted, like a flooding of cars and officers and stuff like that, it would just be, to do it in a quick way would be overtime versus not, Because
Still-
hiring more officers would
still-
just take too long.
Well, and just to be clear, like, so when it comes to the police department, obviously the chief, has all the purview. But when it comes to, you know, and so there's no sort of objection or due process when it comes to hiring overtime when it is felt to be necessary and needed to protect the community. So overtime is spent to make sure that they're able to have added patrols, have special units or whatever it might be. Just another quick example is that, and while it's not a lot of money, so we had originally one drone that we had purchased. We had an officer who had his FAA license to be able to operate that drone and then teach others within the police department to operate that drone. The drone has proved so useful at this point that the ask, it wasn't even really an ask. I was at a fire down on Milburn Avenue. We had the drone up to be able to visualize the fire within the structure because it has a heat sensor on it so that we can see where the fire was traveling. It was raining and they weren't able to get the drone up at one point. So after that fire, came back to the police chief and said, waterproof drone, go get it, done. So like, it's not a matter of spending money, but when you're talking about personnel resources, it's not as simple as just, all right, just hire a bunch of guys. You know, people, one, we're a civil service community, so there's a list that we hire from. We are very cognizant and cautious of people that we hire. I am first and foremost very aware that I want to hire officers that are going to be great officers for 25 years, for as long as they're here, right? So that takes a lot of time and effort to make sure that happens. And there are a host of costs that go with personnel that are, above and beyond just a salary. And so not only that, but you have a building that these guys have been in since 1972 that is, somewhat bursting at the seams when it comes to where you're going to put people and put different things. So there's a lot of factors in it. I'm not making an excuse because in the end, if that is the solution, that is the solution. But I'm just saying that there's a lot of thought that does go into it beyond just, yes, we need to hire a bunch more people.
Okay, great, thank you.
Elaine Becker, Brookhaven Way. Thank you, Chief, for putting this together. I think it was very well needed. And I have just two issues. One, Chief, you mentioned a dog that comes from Newark. I guess that's the only place that has a dog anymore. That's a police dog, a trained dog, and
County Sheriff's Department.
and it lives with this with the person who uses the dog.
Usually, yes.
I remember when we had one a long time ago. I guess it was in the 80s, the end of the 80s into the 90s, and after that dog had his lifespan taken, I've been thinking about it at times ever since, in a way, and it seems to me that things happening in the township, the crime and so forth, is getting worse. It's not getting better, and who knows where it's going to go, but I still think it's a good idea to have a dog. I think there's nothing that can work better than a dog who is in the car with the police officer and can very quickly get to a scene if it's feasible, if it's a real emergency or whatever seems to happen. So that's one thing. The other thing is we're getting so much development in this community, and I wonder if that will affect our police department, the numbers we have, and it's going to be a lot of people if we get all the development that we're expecting. It's going to be very difficult to get where you need to go a lot of times, and you get a lot of people together in these huge apartments, and I just think that's something that needs to be addressed, that we may need to have a larger police force. You can talk about that, Alice.
Yeah, that's something we have, myself and Mr. McDonald have been
Yes,
talking about.
okay, thank you.
Evening, Jerry Kung. I live on Lee Terrace. First of all, I wanted to start by thanking you for doing an excellent job. I know it's, as Frank said earlier, it's a tough thing catching people and then having them released. I just wanted to make a point about the cases where there's car chases happening in town. I really appreciate you showing the video earlier. I actually personally found it very harrowing. I drive down that street every single day. And I'm more concerned about the safety issues related to that. Thank goodness it was a Saturday and there were no kids coming out of school, but you drove down or the officer drove down maybe half a mile, 1 mile worth of streets. Like could have been pedestrians. I didn't see any, but people walking their dogs. I'm just wondering if there's a better way of notifying residents in real time. Because something that jogged my memory was on January 13th, I received an email about a motor vehicle accident at Clive Hills Road and White Oak Ridge Road, and it told residents to stay away from the area. I thought that was a little strange, because if it's just a motor vehicle accident, why, you don't want more traffic there. But then something triggered something in my mind. I was like, oh, maybe there's something, they're chasing suspects on foot. So I don't know if that's what happened, but later on, an hour later, we got another email that said 3 suspects have been apprehended. So I'm just wondering if there's a better way to keep the residents more informed in real time. I know that incident on Hartshorn, we weren't notified. I noticed there were a couple other incidents, September 17th of 2022, August 1st of 2022, January 8th, 5 days prior to January 13th. There were cases where motor vehicles were either there was an accident or they were apprehended and the suspects fled on foot. So, in those cases, I find that to be particularly troublesome for public safety. If someone steals their car and they drive off to Newark and no one's injured, we can be thankful for that. But I think when public safety when you're just out for a walk and you could have someone speeding down 60 miles an hour hitting you or your dog, like that's it's pretty scary.
Most of these chases happen within a minute or two. So by the time you would have somebody go and get to a computer and log in, put out the information, it would be long over with already by then. It would just be giving you information on something that was already old. As for if something like that where there's a bailout and people are running, going through the neighborhood, most of our resources are there. Like someone's not hanging back to log on to Facebook or
So
whatever,
there's a resource problem then, as in, what if there's other?
Potential resources.
No,
Yeah.
So if that's something in progress, and say there's someone else calling 911 for something,
we don't have an information officer in the police department 24/7. That's basically what I'm saying. We don't have somebody who's an information officer sitting in the police department
Okay.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Got it. I just thought it was strange that at 12:07 we got an email that said, "Please stay away from the area," and then an hour later we said that it says 3 suspects apprehended. So
The other thing is most
I
of these
think that
chases
came out
are
from the
not-
information officer here at town hall that day.
okay, so I was just saying if you knew that if there was I think residents in this community want more information rather than less. So when you say something like MVA in area, please stay away, that's not the whole story, right? There's MVA and 3 suspects on the loose, please stay away.
Well, there actually weren't 3 suspects on the
So
It was avoid the area because there's a lot of police activity because they had apprehended the suspects because there was a motor vehicle chase.
They were
okay, but
apprehended very quickly within
the timing was just confusing to me. So
Yeah, and I hear your point in terms of resources when it comes to public information from the police department, and I think that's obviously something that needs to be evaluated.
It's almost like an Amber Alert for everyone in town. An Amber Alert, you get like this.
Yeah.
I mean, just have someone press a button.
Well,
I-
you
you
don't.
know.
Amber alerts don't go out like that.
No, but I
I
mean,
get it like that, but yeah.
but yeah, I mean, we all have some.
Usually something has happened about an hour beforehand and then it goes to police departments and then it goes out, look out for this vehicle. It's not something that's happening in real time.
Again, just a larger point, I think what we're talking about is communication from a public safety standpoint.
The other thing you said was, just a car stolen, drives to Newark, or versus we chase it. Most of the cars we're chasing are actually coming to town to commit crimes. So that's the other thing, is that we're intercepting them as they're coming into town with 3-4 other people in the car to steal another car, commit a burglary, a home invasion, something like that. We don't know what else we never know what they're coming to do. I mean, a lot of times it is to steal cars, but we're chasing them out of town to prevent them from committing a crime. So it's not just chasing the car that's stolen from your house. That's actually very rare we even get to catch that because we wouldn't, if somebody just walks up to a car, puts their foot on the brake, starts the car and drives away, we would never even think anything of it. So,
Sometimes they're not recorded till
Yeah.
This is kind of something that came to my head when I was sitting there. So it seems a lot of people are leaving their cars unlocked inadvertently, or maybe it's a bad habit that they have. This is sort of a ridiculous case, but if everyone left their cars unlocked, but only say 10% of the cars had key fobs inside, then it would take forever for them to, they would have to try 10 unlocked cars to find one that had a key fob inside, right? So, and there was you were talking about how mirrors folded in, a lot of people's cars, their mirrors fold in when they
There was
lock.
nine out of the 10 cars had the key fobs in it.
No, but I'm saying,
Nine cars are
if
unlocked.
everyone left their car unlocked, then that ratio would go down, right? So, you know,
larger maze.
right, exactly.
But that would entice people to just come here and get more cars.
No, it would entice people to start pulling on cars. So, the reason I thought of this is because
You'd
a lot of
be
people's
flooded
cars,
with
a
people
lot
coming
of
in to
people's
steal cars.
cars, their mirrors fold when they lock. So if you have residents disable that feature, then now you have a locked car that looks like an unlocked car. So now it's going to be harder for people. You're going to have to try more locked cars that look like they're unlocked before a key fob gets.
So do you
Yeah,
want
people know to
do you want
disable
people to
that.
run into town?
Yeah.
And I mean, that sounds
No,
ridiculous.
That,
I mean,
that's not what I'm saying, right? I'm saying that if it's okay. So if every car that was unlocked had the key fob in it, right? Then you have a 100% success rate of stealing the car.
Right.
If 10 cars that were unlocked and only one of them had the key fob in it, you have a 10% success rate of stealing the car. So now if you make the cars look like they're unlocked, but they're actually locked, these thieves are going to have to try more cars before they successfully
I
steal
mean,
the
obviously
car.
you're speaking to them, but all they're gonna do is go back to wherever they came from and say, come here, there's tons of
Right,
open
but it's
cars.
going
I
to-
mean, we don't want that.
No, they're not open. They look like they're open. But
Yeah.
We understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would work in application.
I'm just thinking out loud. So
Cool, the cavalry.
Are they in and out of the building?
They just walk up the driveway, pull on the handle, and move on.
Seconds, right?
A lot of times they walk up and then they'll run away.
Yeah,
So if if they're not successful, then they're
seconds.
getting out of Dodge quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. The other thing is, not everybody that comes to town is looking to steal a car. We also have people that come to town just to take things out of the cars. We do have the car burglaries. So if you're just looking to leave cars unlocked, you were look unlocked. Look unlocked, so that they have to come up and pull the handle and they're locked. But there are criminals that come here just to take things out of cars, whether it just be change or purses and go charge the credit cards
We just
everywhere.
ask everybody to lock their cars.
Yes.
Yeah.
That way, when they try and they're not successful, they'll move on to a different town that's
The
leaving their
mirrors are
cars
only
unlocked.
one way that they can tell. There's so many different
Not
ways.
that I wish that on some
You're
other
talking about-
town, but
You talk about guys that literally are probably automotive techs and stuff that literally know every make, model, what each car does. Oh, this one does this one does that. They can just drive down the street and they can oftentimes pick up the unlocked cars. And
I think. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all I had. There were some gaps in the police blotter that I noticed, but I'll take that offline. All right, thanks a lot.
thank you.
Can I just make a note of the K-9? We're now using the drones to actually apprehend individuals that flee from the scene. And it's worked. We've
Works
actually
very
been
well,
very
yeah.
successful at it. And that's kind of like we're calling a K-9 or even having a K-9 is gonna take a lot longer. Because the drone, it takes maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that thing's in the air. And we've been able to catch
it's
several.
very rare we
individuals
don't even have no drone officer. I think we always have somebody working
on duty.
on duty with the drone in the car.
Can you
So-
talk about that one time where there was the drone and the person was hiding between the house and, what is it, like a sensor that catches?
It was a shed. So that was one of our first,
Yep.
basically arrests
Thermal
with the
imaging.
drone. Is that they bailed out. They were running through the yards. We had the drone up, which has heat sensing technology. The guy was hiding between a house and like a shed, but the drone couldn't pick it up. It was just hovering over the homes at the time. But he happened to stick his head out to see what was going on, and the drone it immediately lit up red. So and then the cops came in and converged and were able to capture him. It has very, very good cameras on it, and technically could zoom right in. It's amazing what these drones could do at this point.
There's far less liability with the drone.
And with the drone.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Raquel DePerna. I live in the Poet section. First, echoing what people say. Thank you, Maggie, thank you for being here. So I don't know who must be my neighbor down here because I live in the poet section, but I actually started the chat that he's referring to. There's about like 260 of us on a chat. I don't recall a gun conversation, but we'll leave that where it is. Here's the thing. So, you know, we kind of are all in this thing and we all know who's checking the cars. And I just don't think we know how to leverage the power of our community in that like small section of town, right? So suggestions on, you know, we were talking, do we turn our cameras on each other so we can pick up different angles? Do we, like, of course we have a system, we pick up each other's mail. A lot of us like just have a system. Josh gives us candy every time we do it. It's amazing. But I think that's what we're missing. So we can pull together a little neighborhood. Do we, like, what do we do with that? And how do we, like, what are the suggestions we can have? Because there has been a lot of talk about, you know, do we hire private security for the poet section? And, you know, I don't know how reality, like, these are not, these are great ideas, but how realistic are they? How do we leverage, like, the power of a little chat group, a neighborhood who's trying to just help each other?
A neighborhood watch.
Yeah, I mean,
There's one
I'm
section
not
of town that
suggesting
still
that
has
I
it.
drive around at like 12 o'clock. He
Adams.
drives around at 1. But like, is that an option? Do we, you know, like, we just don't know what to do with our group.
So back in the day, they used to have neighbor watches. They still have neighborhood
Yeah.
watch programs out there. But basically, the neighborhood, and when I say the neighborhood, I don't mean like, some people think the neighborhood watch means like some people from this section of town. It has to be a neighborhood, like people in the poet section.
Yeah.
That get together. Somebody has to lead it from the community in that section. And we will come in and help you start up the neighborhood watch. We don't run the neighborhood watch, but we will come in time to time if you have meetings or whatever and come in and talk and go over trends or what you could do to better the neighborhood or whatever. But the neighborhood actually has to start the neighborhood watch.
So we have like
So you need to have
260 people
a
on
leader.
that.
You sound like a good leader.
Well,
but
I'm not trying to lead anything extra in my evening time. But are there other sections in this town that have a successful model that we could?
Nobody at this point has a neighborhood watch.
Nobody has it. So it's an option. And we could figure out how that works if somebody wants to appoint a leader. There's a wonderful leader in my neighborhood over here.
We're all on the same chat.
So that's something we could follow up on and maybe figure out what that looks like.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Adam Shanker. I live on Keene Road, and I don't know. I just kind of heard, you know, there's not a lot of information that goes on with things. So I heard 2 of my neighbors behind me on Winthrop, their house got broken into. So I heard simultaneously, which kind of got us alarmed. And then another neighbor had somebody show up at their door at midnight and ring the doorbell and ask if they could use the telephone and, you know, things like that. And so, you know, we're concerned. I'm in your statistics because my car was stolen in 2019 and you found it in 24 hours, which thank you very much. But I'm kind of more concerned about, you know, the home break-ins because that seems to be more, you know, where people can really get hurt. You know, I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to do if somebody breaks into my house. You know, I mean, my first inclination would be to kick the shit out of somebody, but that's probably not what would be advised.
No, we do not. We do not say again. We do not suggest confronting anybody that's
But I kind of like
that don't belong in there.
I kind of like more information about, you know, how they're coming into houses. Like I, you know, there's just no information how they're getting in, what the basic MO is with generally with these people. You know, you kind of went over what they're looking for. They go to the master bedroom. It's probably like jewelry and cash. In my neighborhood, we had the James Bond gang a bunch of years ago, so we went through that and like almost all the houses in our
So we have
neighborhood.
a mix in our town.
Yeah.
We have people who break in, like old-fashioned burglaries where they're breaking the window or kicking in the front door. Usually those people are not at home. They usually survey what's going on. They know that the people aren't home. Like you said, they break the door or break the back door or whatever the case may be. Go up to the master bedroom, take jewelry or whatever is easy to grab. And they're out of the house in 1 to 2 minutes. Lately, we've been getting very few, but we've been getting where the car thieves go like to the garage door, and just pull on the garage door to see if it's open or not.
They're seeing a car in the
Sometimes they're
driveway.
open.
Yeah, they're seeing a car in the driveway that they really want, so they're looking for the keys they're like, let me see if I can get into the garage for the keys, because I want this
And then
car.
they're just going to the kitchen, where a lot of people leave their keys laying on the counter or like a little basket or whatever near the garage, and taking the keys and going out and stealing the cars.
Right, so I should move my keys to somewhere.
Well, just lock your doors.
Yeah, well, now I am, after my incident with my car. The other thing I think, as a town, whatever town you mentioned that's suing the state, I don't really know how all that works, but I think the biggest problem here is that there's every reason for these people to just keep coming back, and it's gotta be the most frustrating thing for you, is terrorizing us, and even, we have a full security system, we have lights all around our house. It still doesn't really make us feel safe. My wife doesn't want to go out and walk the dog tonight by herself, so it's not a good feeling right now. So, I don't know how it happens, if the mayor should have a meeting with the governor, or how that happens in government to,
My suggestion is I was gonna do this at the end, but I'll just do it now, is contact your legislators, because they're the people making these laws, and ask them and the Attorney General's office to reverse some of these bail reform acts that are coming on, and have tougher crime bills out there. Because if people aren't staying in jail and they just keep getting released, they know, hey, I could just keep doing this and there's no repercussions on this.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, because the home invasion seemed like that's just ripe for somebody getting hurt, either them or us, or both. And
the end result is putting the criminals in jail so they can't continually do this. But if the laws are saying that they could just come out, or bail reform is just basically letting them loose, it's just a cycle that just keeps going on, where arrest and let go, arrest
Chief,
and let
could
go.
you just say the numbers again? The year before bail reform, how many stolen cars we had the year before they changed bail reform? I think, did you say it was in
So-
17?
It was January 2017.
Yeah, so we had, in 18, we had 17 stolen cars total.
And that's
then
before bail
19
reform.
No, this is all
Right
after bail.
It took a couple
So
years for
in
them to figure it out.
2017, bail reform started. It took them about 2 years to figure out that they're not getting in trouble. So we had 17 stolen cars in 18, and then 19, it skyrocketed up to 37, and steadily has increased to 46 last year.
mine was in 2019. But,
We have,
And this is just not our town, this is the whole state of New Jersey.
I understand.
Unfortunately,
big problem.
we're here in Essex County, which is the hotbed of stolen cars, with North, being the capital of stolen cars out there.
Was it 22 juveniles arrested in the month of January, and only 2?
Arrested and
Only
were
2 went to,
charged.
how many went to
So
juvenile?
only two went to detention.
Out of 22.
So the biggest problem that we're seeing is actually with pending cases. So the way that the law is written, as long as they're going to their court dates, they're making those court appearances, then even if they commit a new offense, they're still getting cut loose, because the way the law interprets it is, no, they're going to court, we can't hold this person. But, the problem is you're having juveniles and even adults with 8, 9, 10 pending cases. You see where the problem is? It's like all those cases are going on at the same time. Meanwhile, they're getting cut loose, they're going back out onto the street and doing the same thing all over
so
again.
are they allowed, if somebody steals a car and they've got 8 pending cases against them, and you go to arrest them or talk to this intake
Intake,
place, does intake know that there's 8 pending cases against them that just haven't gotten to the courts yet?
Even, so they
As
will
long
know
as they're
that.
showing up to
Is
court,
they-
they'll know.
They'll know that they have those 8 pending cases, but even if juvenile detention says, hey, we'll take that juvenile, we'll take them, they got 8 pending charges against them, they're not gonna be held for very long. They're gonna be put on an ankle monitor and they're gonna be cut
But
loose.
I would like to see our town make some sort of stink about it, with whatever the powers that be. Maybe it's already been done, I don't know.
It has.
But as much as possible, because it just seems to be a growing problem, and that's of course why we're here. And also, as far as the technology and things, I was thinking maybe if there was kind of a community Facebook group, or something like that, where basically, because I didn't even know what was happening in houses right down the street from me. And when we had the James Bond gang, we had a meeting, the whole town was involved, the police department was involved at a house in our neighborhood. and we had, an email chain with everybody in our community. But if there was some sort of kind of Facebook, could be like a private group, so only people who are, verified residents in the town, the police, the, town officials are on it. And then information can just be put on that as to like what's happening, oh, there was a break-in on this, it would be kind of like, I don't read the police blotters, so, I don't have time for that, or I don't even know how to read the police blotter, where it would be.
It's not on the website, but
Yeah,
yes, I understand.
But, if there was something like that, then people would kind of know, oh, there's like things happening this week, maybe it gets, and then other people, like community people can also, put what they're seeing, as far as the safety in the community. And it also seems like you're talking about how great the drones are. Everybody has cameras now, and somehow there might be a way to engage people who have cameras, on their streets or something to, once it's on a Wi-Fi network, it should be able to be just streamed pretty easily to any network. And maybe that helps in certain locations, to have, cameras around that are already there and being paid for. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure. Just
Thank
so
you.
everybody knows, during the summer, when this all did come up, I contacted Governor Cody and met with him, and he.
Senator.
Well, he goes by governor, he gets to keep that.
He still gets to.
Yes.
To win.
So anyway, I did meet with him, and he and Senator Bucco put legislation together. We were
I have a
discussing,
copy.
and Alex has a copy if you get it. But we have contact your legislators, and I think that it would be fabulous if everybody would take this. The only thing is, Mila JC is no longer representing us, and she's retiring, so no sense in contacting her, but you could contact Richard Cody and Assembly McKean, and also the Office of the Governor as well. I think that's important. And the prosecutor, Essex County prosecutor, he was at the one thing where we were talking about trying to change the rules where bail reform is concerned. So I think that they introduced it, but it hasn't gotten out of, it has to be signed off on.
Hey,
Manny, can I just ask a question on that? But aren't some people trying to make the opposite argument that the number of crimes that are violent crimes are way down on the other side of it? I'm not suggesting that, I agree with what you're saying, but is it an uphill battle or?
It may be, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't fight it. It may be, Dick Cody was pretty, he came here and he spoke to everybody. I think it's really important. Ms. Cruz talked about, those little crimes that start with whether it's the spray paint and then just, we don't want it in our town. And there have been people that have said to me, well, it targets people. Well, we don't know who it's targeting until we pull the stolen car over. I had no idea who's robbing the cars till the police officers arrest them. I think it's very frustrating, and you've all agreed to that. These guys are, they're still filling out paperwork, and here's the kid back in again. That one kid looked like he was 10 years old that was running.
Yeah.
It's and they are coming up in groups of 4 or 5, but they're doing a great job catching them. They really are. They're doing a fabulous job. It's just, and we're catching them. We're catching them, it's just the release piece, and that has got to stop. And the more people that, listen, the only thing I could say, and maybe we do I saw something with the Save the Canoe Brook Reservoir. I think there's almost 1,000 signatures on that, and that just went up 2 days ago, right? So maybe something we do, we put out a piece like that, and we just start getting everyone to start signing it, and shaking the trees a little bit with the. And I'll be more than happy to contact. I have contacted the governor's office, and we do have a liaison there. And I will tell him how everybody's felt tonight, and make sure that they know.
I gotta be honest with you, Maggie, I called him and I spoke to him. I gotta be honest, I just got lip service.
Well, you're gonna get lip service, and people,
It's
it's
like,
only.
we have to take this into our own hands. It's getting to the point where we can wait with the government. We're talking about tomorrow. This guy got his house last night. This is now. Let's get an outsourcing company. Let's get a couple of cop cars here with flashing lights. Let's do something that we can feel that we're even trying on our own. And I'm wonderful.
Just regarding contacting the governors, and I kind of agree with you. I think that's not really gonna go anywhere. It sounds great to start a petition, but I do feel like that's not gonna happen. There's no bail reform. They're not gonna reform the bail reform, in my opinion. I wish maybe you could find a way to charge some of these people federally. The feds rate, the prosecution rate for the feds is like 98%. I don't know if there are any, if there's anything to do that way, but they do get involved
Need a federal
in
crime.
Essex County and charging some of these gangs when they were, stealing cars, if there's like a criminal ring.
Yes,
They will get involved, so
yes, that
I
is
feel
true.
like that would be a little more helpful.
But that's why we have someone at the prosecutor's office right now.
That's
I know,
the
but I'm
task
saying
force
the
of that.
Essex
Because
County
that's exactly what
prosecutor
you're saying is exactly, once you get in the higher level, you can add the federal government into it.
Right, but the Essex County Prosecutor's Office is part of the system of the catch and release. I'm saying the feds are not part of that system.
No, but they call in the feds to assist them because they know exactly what you're talking about,
Right,
which is
okay.
once they get involved, they usually get the higher charges and they get a better prosecution rate.
Working down in that task force, a while back, they work with the feds, so if they can build a RICO case, they're gonna charge federally if they can. To prove that they're shipping cars out of the country, they're working across state lines, anything like that, they're gonna do it.
But you're still working with the task force in Essex County?
No, I'm not, no, there's no.
But we have an officer with them.
I worked in the past, so
Not-
I know how it works
Not
exactly. how to
Lieutenant
do it.
Del Russo anymore, but.
Just if anybody's interested, and I can certainly make a copy, that it's Senate number 3006. That is the bill that, Governor Cody had put in, which is basically is looking for minimum mandatories of repeat offenses. Just, again, if anybody's interested, we do have the contact information for the legislators as well.
Hi, my name's Josh. I live in the Poet section, and we've had quite a few, repeat attempts in our driveway, next door neighbor, the whole 9 yards. And unfortunately or fortunately, however, I've lived in other towns and cities that are bigger than this, and this has happened previously. So this isn't my first experience with it, unfortunately. But and for you guys, it's just heating up, right? It's increasing, and because you have more technology now, it's helping and it's quicker. And I think we need two plans. We need a long-term plan, so the bail reform and those issues and getting things changed in the government. That's not going to happen in 6 months. And then we need a short-term plan, and you guys are doing the best you can with what you have. So the only thing that I'm familiar with, having lived in it and experienced this in a couple of locations, is that what the first gentleman said first thing tonight is that as much presence as we can throw out there, even if it's not live presence, it helps. Doesn't hurt. It doesn't, but if you have, and I have no idea, but if you have an extra 10 police cars that are in the parking lot that aren't being used at night between 12 and 6, stick them somewhere, turn the lights on, whatever it is, that's a worthwhile investment to have them, on a street corner that somebody sees, and they can't tell if there's anybody in the car or not. And you alternate, maybe one night you have somebody in the car, maybe the next week, you use every vehicle that we have that's a police car, and you stick it somewhere so that it's visible. And I've even been in some locations where they use, I don't want to say if it's robots or they used, but they didn't have live people. They had dressed up like artificial police officers that were literally on, and it works for a little while. It's a short-term thing. And these are just some of the things that I've seen used in the past. And do we have access to a helicopter?
No.
Okay. So I don't know if, because one of the places that I was in, they got access to it. Every night they had helicopters circling town with the spotlights going, and that sort of thing. Once again, it's an expense, but maybe it's a short-term fix and we can get access to one that, circles the town and you hear it flying overhead and you see the lights going. It's a deterrent. It's not a solution. Obviously, the drones are probably more efficient these days and quicker. But if you have that access to a helicopter they can use, it's another form of deterrent. And the last thing that I wanted to bring up, and I don't know if it's if it's something that's happening yet, but in one of the towns that I lived in, once the auto theft started to get under control a little bit, these thieves got a little bit bolder and they started going to the supermarket parking lots and sitting in the parking lots and waiting for people to come out from the supermarket. Open up your trunk with your keys or your fob and put your groceries in, and they would basically come right up to you in the parking lots. That was the next phase that happened after that. And then once the police started defending that, their next move was to not do it in the parking lot of the supermarket, but simply just follow the people home, and they would pull in their driveway and then open their cars. Have we had any of those?
That happened on Addison,
We did.
coming home from an airport about
Have
2
we
years
had
ago.
some follow home or some
Yeah.
incidents like that have occurred?
Lately.
It was like 2 or 3 years
That was
ago.
a
Oh,
couple
okay.
years
It was
ago.
a few years
Yeah.
ago.
It wasn't
It
arrest
has
made in
happened.
that case. Just-
Yeah.
Okay, but
yeah,
nothing, but nothing that, like is.
Recent?
yeah,
Hasn't
nothing-
become a trend, yeah, no.
Right,
It's happened, but
Wasn't there one on Coniston just in the past 6 months to a year? They followed a woman home from Kings. Pretty sure. I heard about
I don't know, but I'm just giving you, hopefully you knew about it, but
yeah.
that's the progression that I saw when I lived in another place where it progressed and, people were just coming home from the supermarket in their driveway and getting, same thing, or getting just held up to give me the keys and jump in the car and get out of there, so.
Like,
If I can just add to Josh's thing, I don't know if you guys have heard the Ghost Army from World War II. It's just like what Josh said. They had like just a small bunch of engineers, a tank, and they created this scene that helped them win the war because they just acted like they could win the war. And unfortunately, but there's a whole like history lesson on how to do this tactic and win.
I mean, it'd be great if we could have 100 police officers, but if we only have 58, we still can act like we have 75, or, if we have the equipment, or we can rent it, whatever we can,
Hi, Kevin Ryan. I live on Great Hills International Speedway. I want to talk to you about that at some point. Maybe grab a coffee, put up some target enforcement areas or something like that. God bless. It's really crazy. Another subject for another time. It seems like one of the problems is information dissemination, and I heard some of the frustration in terms of we can't make people read the newspapers because there aren't any. There are various communication channels that we have available to us. Would a budget line item for beefing up the press and information dissemination help? I don't need an answer to that question now. You also mentioned that you don't have an analyst that can do crime statistics in the way that some of the larger departments can. Would that help? Again, I don't need an answer now. But it seems like that if we can get people more aware of the information, the end goal of having people aware of what's going on. I mean, I heard some interesting stuff tonight. I grew up in a place where we didn't have to lock our doors. We never did, and I worked very hard to get here so that I could live in a place that I didn't feel like I have to lock my doors. At the same time, if I'm spending $120,000 on a car, I'm not saying I did, I might remember to lock it. Just an option, just throwing it out there. So it seems like there are some beneficial things that could happen, just in terms of getting information out there. One question I did have for you, Chief, was do we have, as citizens of this area, a means of getting access to the information for all of the budget line items that you do ask for that you don't get? In other words, it's stuff that goes to Township Committee and look, this just isn't possible. We're not going to give you this. We're not going to give you this. We're not going to give you this, but we're going to give you this. Do we have access to that information?
I submit a budget every year, and it's usually passed. It's not like something.
We don't cut.
So you don't turn down any budget line items? Good for you guys. That's.
But I also work in reality. I don't put in, for another 50 officers.
Well, yeah,
I know that in reality that would just be turned down. It's not like.
Well, yeah, I'm not asking you, did you request to see 130, but other stuff like, hey, I need 50 grand for a data analyst. We need somebody to come in and teach us about the press. And I have a lot of law enforcement in the
Those are
family.
usually talks that we have. I mean, I talk to Mr. McDonald, Mayor, like throughout the week. This is not like, I just put it, I want an analyst, here's a piece of paper. Or I want, whatever, a canine dog. We talk about what's going on in town or what we think would most benefit the town.
Yeah, I think again, it's also, obviously being not necessarily, over conservative with the budget. However, the fact is that, there has to a certain extent, especially with analysts and public information or even IT and stuff like that, you're looking at a sustained need for a particular thing, right? Now, I understand the conversation tonight about, hey, shock and awe or whatever it may be, and throwing a bunch of resources at showing a presence. However, when you hire somebody in the public sector, it's not generally like hiring somebody in the private sector. So if you have a need for an analyst or a need for a public information person, you better be sure that that need will exist for a while, because you're not generally as quickly being able to sort of say, oh, like right? We're just gonna shed 7,000 jobs and, whatever. That's not necessarily how the public workforce works.
Yeah, you still have to donate an organ to get a vacation at the parks too. That's a tough one. Yeah. No, I'm thinking more in terms of just do you, and I understand how difficult it is to hire people. I'm very well aware of it. And the process that you have to go through to do that is not something that you resolve overnight. I don't know that I would agree with hiring a bunch of contractors. But when it comes to some of these jobs, like, hey, I need you to pour over data. You have security clearance, fantastic. You're working with the township committee to find out this is exactly the information that we can disseminate. And then you have somebody that's smart with, these are the appropriate channels for that. You need to disseminate this information here, here, and here. And I know we don't have a budget for a local push system for getting information out there. But
We have a local push system.
fantastic, I was not aware of that. If you do get a C-130, can I get a ride in it? Okay, fantastic. Yeah, sorry, I'm just adding
So
a
what
little
happens? You
levity.
sign up and it,
So again, alert system like Mr. Kung was talking about or others, that's a different conversation. But an alert system from the municipality, as far as information that goes out, yes. So there's a program called an Alert Alert. If you go onto the township's website, it's called a emergency notifications. You click on that, you sign up. It's actually connected to Smart 911 as well, I believe, with the dispatch center. And you can utilize that, and we will send out messages for various things. And it may not be what we're specifically talking about tonight, like, oh, there's something happening right here, right now. But, again, that is how we generally inform our public about things. Yes, we have Facebook, yes, we have Instagram, yes, we have website. But if something needs to be pushed out community-wide, which, again, we are only as good at getting the information out as how people connect with us, right? So times, and I remember being here a while ago, and somebody said, I said to them, well, we have about 13 different ways that we push out information. They said, well, I still didn't get it, right? So, but you have to come get the information too, or sign up for the thing to be able to get the information.
Yeah, I mean, the response to that is, why are you making your problem my problem, right? I didn't get the information when we pushed it out there. We have media analysts that can help with this kind of stuff. This is my trade, so I know a lot about it. I know what gets people to engage. I know it makes them interested in things. I know which channels people pay attention to. And if you're not reaching people and you're pushing out through 14 channels, you need to change those channels or make an adjustment to it. So that's definitely something that I think in the short term you can make a change to, and that will have an impact. And I appreciate the realistic budgeting process. I also think that you have a lot of resources in this community who can look at something like that if you can get them to pay attention, and I also appreciate that. It might help, because I agree with you. The only way this is going to change is if you contact legislators and you get in touch with them. And I had a similar experience with Senator, excuse me, it's hard to say Governor Cody. Governor Cody just getting lip service. So, but I think there are little things that we can make changes to here that will help out. And I'll end with thank you, you guys. Seriously, I have a lot of blue in the family, so I know how hard it is. So, good stuff, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Maggie, on the budget though, just following up to what you said, that you can't ask for another 50 officers. I guess my question is why? I run the math and I say 200,000 an officer on the budget at 50 officers divided by 20,000 residents, it's $500.
That's not how taxation works.
That's how the math works. I don't know how the
No, that's how the
taxation
math
works, but I'm telling you, everyone in town, if you told them we're gonna double the police force and we're gonna cut this down, you're gonna pay 2 dinners at Caramia, we'll probably do it.
But
I'm not kidding.
No, I know you're not kidding, but I was more laughing about the 2 Caraminas. But the fact is, one is that we're restricted to a 2% levy cap. We're restricted to a 2% arbitration appropriations cap. So spending whatever that would be, I'm not as good at math, I guess, but like, that's a lot of money. In 1 year is just not actually possible. Now, looking at a phased-in approach of personnel and the ability to get to a level where we feel, or the community feels, is an appropriate and comfortable level, in a fiscally responsible way, to make sure that safety is paramount, I think that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, just to follow up with it, just on the short term, I mean, like, talk about spending money, like, it's been a really warm winter. I imagine that DPW has spent a lot less money on overtime, on salt, on all this. Let's just, I mean, that's great. I mean, of course, it'll probably snow tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but let's just do some of these things that these guys are talking about. Use some of that money. Like, I mean, I don't know how, I mean, obviously this is your job, the business manager of the town, and you seem to do a great job at it. But like, is there the possibility of shifting some funds to something that these guys are talking about?
Short answer is yes, and I think what we're doing is kind of taking under consideration what these things that have been brought up. I'm sort of just combating the notion of like 50 new officers.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably using that for.
I'm using that as a, but it's $500, you know, everyone in town. And I have a feeling that would probably be passed.
We're close to
Sorry.
Hi, I'm 25. I think I know a lot about technology and how information should get out and what's easiest. It's not people being lazy, just what works. And unfortunately, crime is, you need to know about stuff fast. So, finding something buried on a website for some people, old, young, whatever, it just doesn't work. Why not Nixle? It's an app. Many neighboring towns use it. It's fast, alert. It's almost like a Nextdoor, but it's ran and managed and all that by the police department. And if the problem is getting someone to, that is their job for neighborhood alert and things that are happening, crime, safety, all that wise, why are you not finding someone to manage that? We found someone for the Rose Garden, so we could find someone for something that's a little more serious. You have to sign up for it. It's an app. Doesn't cost a lot. It's free to us. Look into what it is. Could probably be more cost effective in the long run to the police department and all that. So it's called Nixle. It's an app.
Nixle is basically what we have already.
But it's better, and I don't know why we don't have it.
How is it better?
How's it better? Have you guys researched it all?
So our application basically sends out a text message, can send out an email, send out a blast to your phone.
Yeah, but people don't like that. People like apps, and it's like a list, basically like a blotter, but it's all there. And, you know, I'm just saying it's much better. The functionality, everything, it's an app. It's better. People don't like email, text, all that. You go to your app. Many towns use it. I think we should utilize that too.
The same issue still exists. People have to sign up.
Okay, but people don't look through the
I'm just saying,
website.
I'm
Yeah.
just-
Yeah, but look into it. I'm
Just
telling you,
saying,
it's going to be
all
better. Let's not make
all the
excuses
Facebook
of it.
pages,
Let's,
all of it.
you know, I don't think the Facebook groups, all that. Just try the app. I'm telling you. A lot of towns use it. I don't know why we don't.
Alright, so we had advertised 7 to 8:30. I don't want to cut people off, but I do want to be respectful that everybody had sort of a sense. Jay, you want to be the last one?
Yeah, would be last.
I'll be honored.
All right.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Jay Morielli, I live on Claremont Drive, and I want to thank Mayor and Alex and the police for coming out tonight, and more importantly, for the work you guys do day in, day out. I think it's fantastic. I've lived in many places, both in this country and outside of the country, and I can say even with some of the increase in crime that's happening, I've never felt safer anywhere that I've lived, so thank you for that. A question, and what I've heard is there are things that we can be doing because we're in some cases a soft target. We leave our car doors open. We can be contacting our elected officials and getting new laws passed. We can form neighborhood watch groups. And I certainly agree with everyone who suggested that anything we can do to increase the even the perception of a larger presence is well warranted. I have questions though on the technology, and I came a little bit late, so if I missed this, I apologize up front. I understand that we're in the process of deploying new technology. Is there a time frame that you can talk about when that's going to be completed? And if you've done it already, I'll catch the videos.
No, the timeframe is anticipated for this spring.
Okay.
So it is, I think, I mean, again, it's sort of one of those, you never know with the deployment of the technology once they start trying to put the various cameras and things up, but it is expected to be early spring.
Thank you. And if I touch on anything and you don't want to discuss it, just say, we want to keep that confidential. But will the technology allow us to read license plates coming in and leaving town in real time?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what license plate readers do. They give us the information real time.
I'm assuming it does, but I wanted to make sure you didn't have to scroll through it the next day, but it's in real time.
So basically how license plate readers work, as either, if it's stationary, it's reading the cars driving past, or if it's on a patrol car, as the cars are passing by, they read the plates as they go through. And if it hits on a stolen car, it immediately sends up a message onto a computer screen and makes a loud alert noise.
If we get a stolen car coming through town at 2 a.m, you'll get a blink on a screen, and the police department.
Dispatch center gets a message, and
you're on
people
it
who
right
log in
away.
in the cars will get a message that pops up on their screen.
That's fantastic. And can you do a database check on license plates that come into town versus resident license plates? So I suspect that a lot of the crime that occurs is between midnight and 6 a.m. I think somebody mentioned that. Can we do this car's come in, it doesn't match any license plate of a resident? Maybe it's something that we want to be aware of, or at least start tracking.
It doesn't do that.
It doesn't do that.
And it's probably not legal either.
And Ubers, I heard somebody say, I heard somebody say.
I don't think that's legal to do.
Okay, just.
I think it's a violation of Fourth Amendment. Probably.
Does the new technology you guys are working on installing, so it's readers, right? You said, and are they located throughout the town, or are they on the vehicles only?
They're on the vehicles, there's some around town, and this is gonna expand on that, which we have already.
And I heard that in some cases criminals are coming in Ubers. Can we check if there's been a crime committed in this area of town, what Ubers delivered people to that part of town, and check to see, whether that was, get the Uber records and find out, are these people that are.
We do go, like, if there's a crime committed, we will check
There's
our
suspicious
license
Uber,
plate
we can do.
readers to see if there's a vehicle that maybe matched the description given by that resident or by a witness. So that's something that we already do.
Okay, so again, I'm.
And Uber has been very receptive to us contacting them and giving us information.
That's fantastic.
They
That's
have
kind of what I'm
legal-
getting at.
They
Is,
have a legal compliance department that we can set as a as doing so.
and that's fantastic because, again, most of this, I get the impression, is occurring during midnight to 6 a.m.
It varies.
It varies. Okay.
It was a lot at night at one point, then it went to daytime, and Now it's basically back at night again.
Okay.
So
So just,
it varies.
if you've got data that's coming in the form of license plate data, and that can be matched to crimes, it seems like an opportunity here for us to, investigate and using the information on who's been coming into town and what parts of town around what times, and potentially finding more criminals. So thank you very much. And again, thank you for everything you do. I think it's fantastic.
Thank
Thank you very much.
So
thank you. Yeah, just want to thank everybody for your input.
Can I just ask one, I'm sorry, what are the next steps? Like I heard, again, thank you, everybody, but I think there were a lot of good ideas, really good discussion. Appreciate your receptiveness to the ideas. What are the next steps we should all expect?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, one is making sure that from a resident perspective, right, that we'll continue to remind people to lock their cars, that we'll get information more forthright regarding neighborhood watch in case people are interested in that. And from our perspective, we're gonna look at the ideas that you brought up. Again, some of them make sense and some of them do not. I'll just be quite frank, all right? So, but there are things that I think that we can continue to do. And also I think that the police department, obviously has plans in place for what they need to do in terms of added patrols or whatever, but are there some of these more outside the box ideas that are beyond what we normally do in a situation where we see an increase in crime? Then yes, then we need to discuss those and figure out how that might be possible. So in terms of follow-up or further discussion, I mean, maybe we can provide an update at the next township committee meeting, but that doesn't mean that between now and then nothing will happen. Just-
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Hey, Maggie.
It's such a pleasure, thanks so much.
Can I grab you a sec?
Hi, honey, how are you? Good to see
Much
you.
success.
Well,
What's that? Thank you.
hello. Good to- I mean, yeah, we don't see each other in the gym anymore.
No.
How are you? I'm
Yeah,
Maggie.
how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Well, yeah, actually.
No, they don't need it.
Where do you live? Fine. Where do you want to gym?
Not enough, I mean,